The San Francisco 49ers quarterback position is one of the most highly discussed positions in all of football right now because of the competition that you have going on between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance to see who's going to be the quarterback, too. Well, former 49ers coach Steve Mariucci went on the Rich Eisen podcast to discuss what he believes the future is for 49ers Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. And what he had to say about Trey Lance is he thinks he could be traded.
Brock Purdy was playing that day, was practicing that day.
Yeah.
And we had Kyle Shanahan on the set with us, and I asked him because last year I was there, in camp, and
Right.
and it was so different because Jimmy Garoppolo was banned to the other practice field. He wasn't even going to be on the team. They were going to trade him as soon as they could.
Right.
And then Trey Lance was taking every snap, or in the ones, and so much has changed in the last year, right? Because now Brock Purdy is the starter. And Kyle said he's healthy, he's ready to go. He has no limitations. So they got him on a little bit of a pitch count, which is smart. Every now and then they'll give him a practice off so he doesn't overtire his throwing arm or his elbow or his torn UCL. But he's the starter. And so there's a battle for backup. But with Trey Lance, who they traded up in the draft so much to go get him, and he's battling for number 2 with Sam Darnold. It's really interesting. They've got 3 quarterbacks that are very, very capable, I think. And who knows? They might end up trading Trey Lance.
That's the question about it, Steve.
Deadline.
But what's the sense you got there that you're willing to share? Because everybody talks once microphones come off or whatever. But
the sense about the quarterback situation.
About Lance, the fact that he, that's all you hear about him is how talented he is. The upside is great, huge ceiling, and he just needs the reps. He needs the time, and it doesn't seem like he's going to get it again. Last year was the time for him to get it, and he had to, get on a cart in his second game, and the rest appears to be history. Is it a lack of snaps or ability? Best than for your
No, I don't
knowledge.
think it's ability. I think lack of snaps is really comes into play here because his last year in college was a COVID year, so he didn't do anything.
Right.
Then he comes to the pros as a youngster, wasn't old enough to rent a car, and he didn't do anything, and so he's so far behind in terms of playing in live situations, and so they were so high on him last year, Rich. I couldn't believe it. He was going to be the next Steve Young. And it's been the injuries that gotten him. It's his ankle is he got hurt in week 2, and so the poor kid has had the injury bug. And if he stays healthy, he's big enough, strong enough, athletic, smart, and all of it. It's just he's been hurt, and it's that simple. But you got to be available, like Joe Thomas, 10,000 snaps in a row.
Right.
You got to be available, right? And you can be you can be Joe Montana, but if you miss most of the time, you're not Joe Montana. And so, anyway, that's his deal. And you're going to see him. They're not going to play Brock Purdy, I don't think, in the preseason. So you'll see Trey Lance quite a bit in the preseason with Sam Darnold.
Okay, so then you'll get a sense of things. So then I'll ask you a game day morning type topic bar question that you then are forced to answer. It's your best guess. Sam Darnold was brought in for Purdy insurance or Lance insurance, and you can't say both, Steve. You cannot say both.
Purdy insurance. This is my guess. I don't know for sure, but I think if Trey Lance plays well in the preseason, okay, because I think they know what they have in Sam Darnold. Smart guy, experienced guy. He went 4-2 with the Panthers last year. I mean, he's been around a little bit with your Jets, and and he'd be a heck of a backup, and he's a good mentor kind of guy, doesn't rock the boat. If Trey Lance can show well in the preseason, I think there were a lot of teams that liked him when he came out in the draft and had him graded as a first-round guy. And so I think teams will say, hey, look at him, he's back, he's healthy, and would be willing to give up a nice draft pick or two to go get him because, there's such a premium on having a healthy quarterback and a guy that's capable. Maybe somebody gets hurt early in the season before October, trade deadline. I think that might be they might be able to get some draft picks back.
Now, we've heard leading up to this joint practices that there was a chance that this could be a tryout for the Raiders in regards to potentially making Trey Lance available to be traded to this team. Now, obviously, it's interesting because that's come from 49ers beat reporters. And now you're hearing guys like Steve Mariucci, who was at Santa Clara for training camp, and of course has so many ties to the San Francisco 49ers, kind of continuing to talk about how it feels like the 49ers are comfortable with Sam Darnold in a backup type role and could potentially trade Trey Lance. Now, this is still an interesting dynamic because if you've been at training camp for the better part of 3 years since Trey Lance has been in the league, this was by far Trey Lance's best training camp. He looked good. He looked improved. The mechanics look better. The confidence even looks a little bit better. He got more consistent. So you're starting to see a better Trey Lance. But does that mean the 49ers are trying to get out of the Trey Lance business or keep him on the roster to develop and maybe see what they got? This is a fascinating scenario. Again, you had Vic Tafer, a Vegas beat reporter, right after practice, talk about, Trey Lance looks good. Maybe someone will trade for him. And again, it's just you're connecting the dots. You're seeing it all. You got Steve Mariucci. You have 49ers beat reporters bringing this up about a month ago. You've got Las Vegas Raider beat reporters bringing it up directly after practice. I don't know. You tell me. Do you think the 49ers would trade Trey Lance even with his continued kind of ascension and rise coming back from the injury? Or does it make more sense to keep all three of these quarterbacks on the roster as they get ready to head into the 2023 season? It's an interesting topic. Obviously, there's so many different ways that we've discussed this topic, but it's something that is starting to percolate a little bit more, and I'm just curious to see what you guys think about it. Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.